Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Svetlana and I am a vice president of a nonprofit called We Got This. Now today I wanted to do a bit of a longer video. A lot of people ask me all the time, what do you do? You know, when you need to contact medical, when there's an issue with my loved one, whether it's your husband, your son, your brother, what do you do? Because there's a chain of command that you have to follow. You do. If you skip that certain step, if you go to the wrong person, you might not get where you want to go. So I thought that we do a video on that topic. And like I said, it may be a little bit of a longer one because we do have somebody that's going to join us in this video, and let's get into it.
I played it innocent, a feel of discontent. I'm finally facing it all, fearless.
Now let's talk about today's video, why I wanted to make it. Our nonprofit does a lot of help for people, and number one thing that people contact me with these days is I have a loved one and they need help. They may need to get something for their ADA, that's disability accommodation. They may need to get protective custody. They may be a high profile case, so they do need to be in protective custody for that. Do they need medical help? Do they need to be moved to a different unit? That kind of thing, different facility. There's a lot of different things that happen inside those walls where you don't know where to turn. And what I've learned from my husband, he is a legal guy. He's been doing the law for a long time. Sometimes if you don't follow the proper channels, you get nowhere. I mean, most of the time you might get nowhere anyway because they don't really care. But supposedly, you have to follow the right chain of command to get to the outcome that hopefully will work out for you. And there is a protocol involved in prisons across the United States that is specific to that. Now, I say across the United States because we're going to mention people and their titles, and the titles of certain individuals might be different. Some states might have a unit manager, some have a captain, some have a colonel instead. So the titles of those individuals are different, but the idea is those protocols, the chain of command still has to be followed. You still have to do the right order, otherwise you're going to get bounced around a lot and you're going to get nowhere. So I wanted to ask my husband, because he does a lot of grievances, a lot of communication forms, and for those of you that don't know it, KITE is an inmate communication form. That's the name for it. Grievance is when you complain about something or want to resolve something. There's different levels to it. There's level 1 communication. Then when you're escalating it or replying to it, then that becomes level 2. So it becomes quite complicated that way. But I wanted to ask him what happens. How do you get things done? Who do you turn to? So I've advocated for him for a long time, and I still have to double check with him. But for most of the time, what I've learned is you have to start at the very bottom. There's a very bottom level staffing that you have to do the request from, and then who do you go to on the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Now don't get me wrong, it's a very frustrating long process. What I find and I get irritated with is that they will tell you to something. They will tell you, thank you for your correspondence and we'll take it into consideration, which to me is a non-response, because usually that means you'll never hear from them again, and you have to bother them and bother them and bother them, and that is the name of the game. But Aside from that, who is the person you start that communication with? And they're not going to be the only one you deal with. It's just that you have to contact the initial person. And then when that doesn't work or that comes back, you have to go to the person above them. Then it is the person above them, and so forth. And that is within the facility. And then you go to people above that, and that is outside of the facility, but within the Department of Corrections, the DOC, or BOP if you're in the federal system. And then if that doesn't work, you're going outside of the prison itself to other sources, such as governors and so on. But from me, it's not going to sound the same. It's going to sound a lot better from somebody who does this on a daily basis. And I do say daily because he does it for himself and he does it for others. Before I get my husband on here, I'm just going to ask you guys to do a favor for me. And this doesn't cost you anything, I promise. All you get to do is you click on that button that says subscribe, and that lets you know the next time I post these kind of videos. It also helps out my channel so much. And if you like these kind of videos, please give it a thumbs up. That lets YouTube know that you like those videos. And as a bonus, which I'd really appreciate, put something in the comments. Anything that you want to put in the comments. If you have any questions, if you just want to say something, if you want to comment about the weather we're having, anything like that, or if you want me to cover a specific topic, definitely put it in the comments, because then I know somebody wants that topic covered and we know what videos we're making. So without further ado, we're going to get my husband on here, and that's Kenyon Joseph. He's going to tell us what to do, who to contact when you have an issue for your loved one. Okay, so start talking. All right.
Okay, so talk to me. What's your questions?
Well, I have no questions. My mind went blank. Let's see. If you have an issue in a correctional facility, what is the approach you would take?
Well, it depends on what the issue is first. Because like if it's on custody side or medical side, there's two different policies you have to follow and change the commands to get to a resolution, so to speak. So let's just take, say, custody side. Let's just say it's something like property or something like that. You're supposed to write a request to either your counselor or your unit manager. Some states it's different, you know what I mean? They don't go by captains, they're unit managers. Some they go by, they actually go by sergeants or corporals and stuff like that, and assistant superintendents and superintendents, and then some of them it's the wardens or deputy wardens. But generally that's what you do. You follow that chain of command. You write that first request and then wait for a response. If you don't get what response that you think is adequate enough for that situation, you go up the chain of command and you keep going until you need to file a grievance, your level 1. And then from the level 1, you got to wait for that time frame or whatever it is. Every state is different. Here in Connecticut, it's 30 days, usually, generally. And then they'll answer. And then after when they answer you, you got about typically 5 business days to file a level 2 appeal. And then if they allow you to appeal it to the level 3, the same amount of time. And then after that, you can go to court.
Tell me what the chain of command is. Let's go with the custody side.
All right. So generally it starts with the counselor, the unit counselor. Then from there, you have a unit manager. Usually it's a captain, but sometimes it could be a counselor supervisor or lieutenant. It just depends on how they want it. Just the unit manager. He's the one who runs your unit. So you generally go through that first. If you don't receive what you want through that chain, right there, those first steps, then you go outside the unit, which is going to, depending on the issue, it could be the ship commander, which is another captain or a lieutenant, you know what I mean? And then you just keep going from there to deputy warden, to the warden, and then if the warden doesn't do what he's supposed to do, you go outside the facility to the district administrator. From the district administrator, if he doesn't do what he's supposed to do, then you go to the commissioner's office and see the deputy commissioner, and so on and so forth until you get to the commissioner. The commissioner doesn't do his job. Technically, his boss is the governor or lieutenant governor.
Okay, so how would you find these people? Or are you talking about what you do? What do outside people do?
Generally, how you find them, you can always ask your counselor. They have these like, I guess you could say routing sheets, where they tell you who's the administrative officials in your facility. Generally, you can ask them for it, and they have them, or sometimes they're posted in a unit, and you can get them from there. And it gives you the names of each individual's title and what their job descriptions are supposed to be.
Okay, so there's 30 days when you write your grievance.
Not all states. That's just some states have different guidelines. Connecticut, you have typically 30 days from the date of the incident or the date of discovery of the incident.
Okay, what happens when you get a reply and you're not happy with? You do an appeal, right?
Yes, if it's the grievance, yes, you do the level 2 appeal if they allow you to, because there's boxes where they check off that says that you're allowed to appeal this to the next level, which is the level 2, or they could check off and say that you've exhausted and you no longer can appeal any further. So if they check that off, that means there's nothing nobody in the DOC is going to do. So you're going to have to go to the court.
Okay, how likely do they actually address them?
Almost never. It's a formality. You got to understand the grievance system is not designed to actually help you. It's only when President Clinton was in office in 1997, he passed the PLA Act, Prison Litigation Reform Act. And by doing so, it said that we have to file or attempt to file an grievance on an issue before we can go into court to seek redress. So it falls underneath one of those type of things. So it's just a formality.
Okay, what about medical?
That's a whole shit show in itself. So medical is a whole different process. You have, supervisors that run that. So typically you start by writing a request to sick call to be seen for whatever the element is. It varies on how long it could take, from facility to facility, state to state, whatever, you know what I mean? So it could be a day, 2 a week, a month, just all depends. Then they come and see you, and generally the nurses can't do nothing. They really can't do nothing. They can't really prescribe you nothing other than like mediocre stuff like Tylenol or something like that. They really can't do nothing for you. So it's just another formality. You go see them. Oh, well, we can't do nothing. You got to go see the doctor. We got to put you on the list for the doctor. That takes about another couple weeks. You know what I mean? So by the time usually you get there, you're either all right or you're dead.
Oh, I know. Because I think this varies state to state, but do you pay for sick call?
Yes. Connecticut, you pay $3.
So if they can't do anything, can you get your money back?
No.
I have to ask.
That's no matter what. Automatically, you have to sign that. And if you refuse, they still bill you.
No. Really?
Yeah. That's what I said. That process, you go through the chain with that. And if you don't get a desired effect, Connecticut has a whole separate medical grievance process. Health service grievances, as they're called. So then you got to file that. You got to start there and file that level 1 there, and then you got to exhaust all the way up to the level 3 there. And then if that you don't get your desired effect, there's somebody that oversees them, which is outside the facility. In Connecticut, it would be central office. It would be Colleen Gallagher. Well, no, she ain't no longer, my bad. Colleen Gallagher is ADA. She's on the American Disability Act. But it's somebody else. She used to be the one that dealt with the medical health supervisor for everything. She just switched positions, and now they got her in the role of that ADA.
Okay, how likely do they take you to an outside hospital?
Well, you got to go through a whole long formality for that. You got to first go through all the stuff in the facility, which includes, them giving you probably Motrin or whatever, the situation is. It'll drag out for a long time. A lot of times you got to file grievances or even file a habeas to go to court to get them just to take you to the hospital to see somebody, a specialist. So it could be months, years. It took me one time when I got my surgery for my neck, as you know, when I had the herniated disc. It took me almost, 12 years before I finally got the surgery? You know what I mean? So
I'm just thinking, if a person's on the floor, what happens?
It depends. If they're unconscious, then they generally rush them to the hospital. If they're not unconscious, you probably ain't going nowhere. They're probably just going to go down to the medical for a little while, and then they're going to send you back to the unit. I've seen guys say that they have chest pains and die. because they tell them write a request.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. What if it's a heart attack? Which
And
happens.
that's my point, because a lot of times, this is where I was just talking to the officer the other day about this, because this is where it becomes a problem. Because custody can't force them to do nothing. They can only tell them what's going on. If medical says, well, tell him to write a request, there's really nothing he can do outside of calling a code. You see what I'm saying? So it has to be, like, your situation has to be worthy of him feeling like he needs to call a code white. You know what I mean? For medical assistance, in order to make them do the job. Now, it happens, you know what I mean? But it's very rare, because a lot of them won't do it, because the blowback that comes behind that, you know what I mean? Because when it gets investigated, because everything has to get investigated, it comes out that, oh, well, he called down there, and they just did that because it is, you know what I mean? So it becomes a shit show. But in fairness though, like I always say, I always play devil's advocate. You know me. I'm not just going to give it from one side, like, you know, oh, it's only them and it's not us. You have idiots that play the game just to get out their cells. And that also causes the problem, because when somebody does genuinely have a medical problem, they can't get it because they think somebody's playing, crying with them. You know what I mean? And so it hurts you when you really do have a problem, because they think everybody's doing the same.
Are the officers allowed to do CPR? Or do they do CPR?
Technically they can, but will they? Probably not. Most of them don't know what the hell to do. They just stand there looking stupid. I got in trouble years back in 2016 here in this facility because one of my boys was having a seizure while we were in Juma services. And this dude was flopping around like a fish, you know,
Seizure?
for, you know, lack of, you know, term, and he's smacking his head against the ground. You know what I mean? Because he's flopping. So I'm like, roll him to his side. You know what I mean? I'm telling people, roll him to his side, put something underneath his head so he doesn't smack it against the ground and bust his head open or whatever, because that can be more dangerous than anything else. It's how most people with seizures end up dying, is from hitting their heads and things like that. And so they're telling me, don't touch him, don't do nothing, leave him just like that, wait until medical gets here. And then when medical comes, they're looking at him like, we don't know what to do. So I just said, fuck this. And I, you know, moved everybody out of the way, and I flipped him to his side and, you know, held his head. You know what I mean? I was like, yo, what the fuck? You don't know what to do? You're medical professionals. I know what to do. You know what I mean? And, you know, they wanted to put me in a hole for that because they said I wasn't supposed to do what I did, but I didn't give a shit because, you know, here's this man flopping around like a fish and you smacking his head hard against the ground, and you're just standing there looking at him like, we don't know what to do.
I saw something, and I don't know if it's true, but they were saying that this was on the yard, and it looked like a guy was having a heart attack. There was an inmate that ran towards him. They wanted to help him, and the officer pulled them back, saying, you can't, because if he dies, you can be charged with murder. You're the last person that touched him.
Technically, yes, they can do something like that if they want to. Technically, they can if they want to. But the odds of it usually happening or sticking, slim to none. But yeah, typically you can, but the odds of you getting charged is slim to none, especially if it's all on camera, because everything's, you know, on camera most of the time in here. It could see you trying to help you, you're not going to get in trouble. But that's what he's supposed to actually go over there to help.
Well, obviously he doesn't.
Well, because they don't care. Most of them don't.
Okay, but if he comes to help, and you got like 50 prisoners out there unattended, does that fall on him?
Not necessarily, because technically the rules and their rules is they're supposed to do something. They're supposed to call for a code. And if they can provide some assistance in a safe way, they're supposed to do so. You see what I'm saying? So he can direct everybody, like if they're on, you know, go lay on the ground or whatever, you know what I'm saying? He can direct you to, you know, become neutralized, so to speak. You know what I mean? So that he can assist. It's just whether or not they want to. A lot of times, unfortunately for some people, it could be your charges too. Could play a dangerous role against you. Because if you're in jail, you know, for child charges, you're likely to probably die because they're not going to call for assistance right away. Because they're, you know, they feel like you're a scum.
Too bad.
But that's the drawback of prisons, you know, that there's certain things you can't come in here with and have, or you're gonna have problems.
All right, so that's today's video, because that's all the time we had on this call anyhow. There's only so much time that he can spend calling me, unfortunately. If you want longer videos, please contact the prison and they can maybe authorize longer calls, but that's all we got for this time. Anyway, I hope this video helps some of you, and if you have any questions, feel free to, like I said, post it in the comments and we'll try to help you. And for those of you that contact our nonprofit, thank you so much. We appreciate that, and feel free to contact us with things like that, because that's what we're here for. So again, thank you for joining me today on this video. I hope to see you on my next one, and have a good day, whatever you're doing. Bye.